Thank you for watching, liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing right now.
You might remember a while ago, I took a telemarketing call from a company that was alleging to provide Web 2.0 consulting services. And I strang the entire team along for a little while, complaining that my browser just wasn't capable of handling Web 2.0. Well, tomorrow morning, and that is going to be in a matter of hours, I'm going to be doing a remote panel session. That's usually how I do panels, or sometimes even keynotes. I'll just turn on my live webcam. Well, it's always on, but I'll have them pull it in, and then I'll do the presentation, and then I'm good to go. People seem to enjoy it. It's something different, and I don't have to travel halfway across the country just to present something that I could just as easily present on camera remotely. Live video for the win. live.pirillo.com. So tomorrow it's going to be a panel where this is going to be in conjunction with a government, well, at least an agency in the government, I guess it's a conference talking about technology and its interplay with the government. And the panel is going to be on Web 2.0. And the coordinator sent me a list of questions that I thought would be just as useful to address on video. The first one: do you consider yourself an early adopter, digital immigrant, or digital native? I do. I'm kind of an edge case. As soon as I realized that I could do live video all the time, I've been doing it literally all the time. I consider myself an early adopter in some instances. There are some things that I'm willing to hold back on. When it comes to picking up a new piece of hardware, yeah, I'm an early adopter. Software, sometimes it kind of depends. But web services, not so much anymore. I enjoy looking at new websites, but inevitably I know that I'll get tied into one website or another, and then it'll disappear. Like, it'll just go away. And that happened a lot in the late 90s with the dot-com boom. So I'm a little more careful these days, in giving a lot of attention to one website over another. So when it comes to that, I'm not so much an early adopter. And so with the idea of Web 2.0, and we're going to get into that with the next question, I know a lot of the sites that are being created today, if they're not open or they're not based on open source, or they are open sourced as a platform, then I know they're just not going to be around in a few years because they can't afford to keep up. So the next question is, Web 2.0 a fad? If it is it necessarily bad? I don't think it's a fad. I think it's a conference. I think the idea of 2.0 is a little disingenuous when it comes to the internet. My browser really hasn't changed. I mean, yeah, it's been upgraded to a certain degree. We haven't seen a massive amount of browser, innovation. Google Chrome has kind of, upped it a couple of notches, and many people say they still don't see the difference. Well, wait until you use Google Chrome and one of the tabs just goes ape, and you just kill that particular process, but the rest of your browser stays running. That is a massive innovation, and I certainly can't wait for a Mac version of Google Chrome. But that has nothing to do with the internet, really. It has to do with the desktop. I think, with the proliferation of broadband, with better access, with the digital divide, closing, that, we have come to rely on certain services that are online in a different capacity, but I wouldn't consider it a version number. The geek in me might, but I'm less inclined to be able to explain that in a coherent manner to a layperson or someone who's not necessarily in the technology space. So I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I would rather call it a renaissance than label it with a number. I mean, we don't walk around saying we're in economy 27.3. It just never happens, right? You don't hear economists doing that for a good reason, because it's stupid. Web 2.0 is the name of a conference, and that's about it. When did you make the switch into the Web 2.0 world? Did you see that was an eye roll? Was it a business or personal switch at first? Do you even compartmentalize the two? No, I don't. And that's the answer. I don't compartmentalize the two. No one makes the switch into the Web 2.0 world. It just evolves. That's the nature of the internet. There are no versions. How do you find out about new Web 2.0 tools? Well, how do I find out about anything is whether it's Web 2.0 or, remote control 4 or soda can 18, Apollo 11. Okay, I find out from friends or, enough friends that tell me about it, email invitations, the chat room, like I've got at live.pirillo.com. Now I've got the community at geeks.pirillo.com. And I find the more that people talk about it, the more aware I am of it. And that's largely how I find information. It's also how I get information. I would just as soon turn to my community. In fact, it's kind of funny. I talk to myself anyway. Having the live camera on is interesting because I'll say something out loud like, gee, I wish X. And someone in the chat room or someone by instant messenger will pop up and say, oh, I can do that. Or here, look at this. I'm like, that's great. It's like the ultimate in crowdsourcing. It's awesome. And then if I find something that I really like, I'll say it aloud. I mean, it may be just in that moment, but the people that are watching live, and granted, I've kind of been in and out today, mostly out. I know that they're able to pick up on it and possibly learn something, vicariously. What Web 2.0 tool could you not live without? What is your essential business tool? Email. Honestly, email. Instant messaging. And it's not. Here's the thing. Those really haven't changed. The tools have evolved to a certain degree. But like with instant messaging, that is still one of those parts of the internet that is so far behind. I can't think of the last time I ran a client that was designed by the distributor for instant messaging. That would mean I use Adium to bring all of the instant messaging services together except for Skype, which refuses to play along. They don't want to release their API. One of the reasons why, they're not exactly as Web 2.0 as people want them or make them out to be. A lot of companies aren't as Web 2.0 as people would make them out to be. And the idea is that you would share in between all these various services and be open about what you're doing. But I still see the web and the internet is still very much predicated on the model of closed and proprietary. It'll get really interesting as more platforms open up. I do believe that. I've come out and said that the eventuality is that all software will be, I don't want to say free. I want to say open source. I do believe that. It's just inevitable. We're not there now. Service is always going to be something that you're going to be able to charge for. You can't think about that. How much is good service worth to you? And it's invaluable, especially if you've ever had bad service. It seems like a new Web 2.0 comes out every week. I think she meant to say Web 2.0 tool or site. Do you try them all, or do you wait for the early adopters to weed out the time wasters? I'll take a look on the surface, and if it seems interesting, then yeah, it may stay on my radar. I don't really stick with one particular tool over another unless it has an extreme value to me, and that's very, very rare. I'll usually wait until there is a groundswell of support from my peers, or until enough people are doing something where I just say, okay, fine. Like, I didn't have MySpace for a while, and then I just kept getting invites and invites and invites. It's like, fine, I'll sign up for MySpace. Didn't get onto Facebook, and then I'll get all these invites. Fine, I'll sign up for Facebook. And so that's just kind of the nature of it. There are certain services that I'll sign up for, but just never really use. So, it just depends on where it fits and what I get from it. And it's just going to depend on, the momentum that it's going to take to get me from point A to point B. And so once I've kind of established where I want to host my photos, the chances of me changing that are between slim and none. Hopefully I'll be able to use Flickr indefinitely, or when it goes down I'll be able to export with relative ease, but I have no want, need, or desire to change my where I put my photos online. The Twitter effect. Breaking news, disseminating information instantly versus the old. And honestly, Twitter's been interesting. I've complained about downtime at times, but it's more fun to complain about the people who are complaining about the downtime, because Twitter is, after all, a free service. I just want to slap people upside the head when they complain about something that's free, especially when they have no ability to fix it. If they have the ability to fix it, they should offer that information forward. But they don't. They usually just complain. They're professional complainers. And Twitter is interesting because I made a statement during GnomeDex where Twitter is a perfect place for you to say what you're thinking before you think. And you see that somewhat in blogs, but Twitter kind of exacerbates that problem. And it's an issue more for people that don't think things through. And admittedly, there's times where I'm feeling a little emotional about one thing, and I'll post it without really thinking, and sometimes that'll bite me. Not so much anymore. Twitter has actually given me pause and made me stop and think about what I was posting before I actually posted it, because once you put it out there, it's online forever. So the idea of throwing something out there immediately and not having to go through traditional means of receiving information, I think it's awesome. I don't think there's any way it's going to be reversed. I think we're going to adapt to it. A lot of people's blogs have kind of fallen to the wayside, but I found that not only can I use these micro services in connecting with community to bring people back into my own thoughts on my blog, but really use that to gauge the communities and the community at large. Anybody who's following me, I consider my community, their perspective on a situation or a matter or a product or a service or what have you. So I think it's going to snap back. I've actually been working with a couple of the guys at ping.fm, ping.fm. We're going to be working on a project that is going to help you keep your blog up to date while still using these microblogging services in a way that hasn't been done before. And trust me, when you see it, you should think it's cool, because everybody I've kind of told about it thinks it's pretty awesome. So I don't know if it's going to be awesome or not. I don't want to set the stage for any. That screensaver's pretty awesome. Can you see it? It's kind of dark. I get all my screensavers open source, jwz.org. Love them. They're different every time. I just love randomizing the screensavers. Never, like to see the same thing for too long. That's a very geek 1.0 thing to say, I guess. I don't know. Screensaver. My email address is chris@pirillo.com, and if you are awake tomorrow morning, at least at the time that I'm recording this live, maybe you can see me streaming out with the rest of the panel at the conference. You can find me streaming live video, of course, at live.pirillo.com, and you can also join the community of geeks at geeks.pirillo.com. Interestingly enough, this is another thing. This is a Web 1.0 problem. For some reason, some people like to put a www dot in front of domains or URLs. If I don't say www dot, don't put it in there. Don't do that. Okay? I don't even say http:// anymore. It just kills me when I'm on the phone with someone and I ask for a web domain and they say http:// just what? Forget it. I'm going to Google. That's it. Just go to Google. In fact, you can go to Google right now. Do a Google for the word Chris. You will find me. Guaranteed. And if you don't believe me, well, stop by the chat room. In case you missed the URL when I mentioned it earlier, it's live.pirillo.com. Will you later.